So I invite you to take a look at Christmas from a new perspective. I invite you to consider the possibility that Christmas is really an awakened moment when I remember my Christ consciousness and begin to live from that place of the divine. And when can I do that? Every moment of every hour of every day. You see, I'm not here to show up perfect for you. I'm here to live from that essence within and reveal the perfection of my creation. See, each one of us is created in the image and of the likeness, and I know we've heard that before. But what does that mean? Does that mean that God is 5'2" and no. God is all there is. So we want to wrap our mind around the idea of this infinite energy system that is everywhere present and that we live, move, and have our being within it, not separate from it, but in it. And so the very cells of my body are the Christ. And when I recognize that and begin to look at myself more closely, and I invite you to do the same, is as we look at ourselves more closely, we begin to see what lights us up, what excites and delights, what calms us down or brings us down. And what I've noticed is that when I'm most alive is when I'm living from that place of the divine, when I'm letting inspiration flow, when I am allowing the Christ to be revealed, when I'm letting my authentic self out into the world so that other people can see me. Scary, isn't it? See, we hide because we want everyone to like us, but the journey that we're on and the journey that we're all on is the very same journey that Mary and Joseph took. We're journeying into the essence, into the self, into a higher state of consciousness that allows us to be all that we were created to be, not some semblance of brokenness, because that's not true. And the thoughts that we think aren't real, they're not true. They're merely memories of past stories or ideas we heard on the news or something. Our thoughts are kind of scattered, but it is our thoughts that is directing our consciousness. So where are we directing it? How are we living? And are we ready to live in a new way? Are we ready to celebrate the life we were given? When we take this journey into the Christ consciousness, can we look here instead of here and be okay with what we see, what we're being compelled to talk about, being compelled to share, or being compelled to give into the world? Last night we were here, many of us were here for a remarkable concert. This church is so full of remarkable children, young adults. It was a brilliant evening, absolutely brilliant. And we didn't pay nearly enough for the tickets. They were worth way more than we paid. And to see all of these different talents, whether it was gymnastics or music or dance, but to see all of it, acting. Shemra is very funny. It was a great night. It was a great night. And if you missed it, oops, I do have some video. But if you missed it, just know that each person brings a little something to the table, and when we all come together and we all bring our gift, when we all show up authentically as we are, we create greatness. We create something beautiful and magical and mystical and marvelous because it's the real thing. Like what we saw last night were these real people showing up as who they are, not sitting quietly in the pews, but singing and dancing and playing piano and being remarkable and showing us a little bit of who they really are. And it was exciting. It was exciting. It ended way too soon. But what's beautiful is that reminder, the reminder that each one of us is a gift. Each one of us is special and remarkable and wondrous and beautiful. And so when we look at the story of Jesus, when we look at the story of him, he lived the Christ life. He lived the Christ consciousness, and you can too. We all can. Most of us forget. But we can do this. We can go within and listen to the inspiration and begin to act upon it, to be courageous enough to look beyond the stories that we tell, the histories that we've lived, and stand in the moment and go, I am the I am, and I trust it. And I'm going to allow that consciousness to move me courageously, because we get a little scared when we start revealing ourselves, don't we? We get a little nervous because what are they going to say? Who are they anyway? Do we know? Who are the they that we're thinking about? You know, most of us are so busy thinking about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how it's going to be perceived that we're not really thinking about them. So are they actually thinking about us? Maybe not. Maybe it's all just a big illusion that we've created, that instead of going into our divine essence and revealing our fabulous, remarkable, glorious selves, we're hiding, thinking that somebody's going to judge us. But who, in fact, has judged you? Right then, in that moment, it was you. Yes. Sorry to say, it was you. So how do we do it? How do we change the story? How do we begin to allow our true essence and beauty and magnificence to be revealed? How do we go to that place within and trust it? How do we trust that God actually is good and that God is being us, and so we must be, in fact, good? Even though we've made mistakes, I've made a couple. Hey, what are you laughing at? We've made mistakes, we've slipped and fallen, and we've gotten up. We've gotten up, and we've continued. And why is it that we got up and continued? We got up and continued because we could, because we knew somewhere inside of us there was something we could tap into, something that gave us the strength, the drive, the possibility of something more. There was something inside of us that said yes. And even though we were feeling down and flawed and broken and less than, there was something inside that went, no, that's not true. You're okay. And there's a push. There's a push to do something and be something. And I remember the story of Og Mandino, who wrote so many remarkable books. And him laying in the gutter, you know, an alcoholic who'd lost his family, his career, everything was gone. And he looks up into the window of a pawn shop and sees a handgun. And for a moment, he thought, there's the answer. But instead, he went into his divine nature and knew that he could overcome any circumstance. And he went on to write the most remarkable books, beautiful stories of possibility and hope and love and joy, stories that every person who reads them can relate to, regardless of religion or not, because that doesn't matter. Stories of love and hope and joy are present for every single person, and we can all participate in those. So this journey that we're on is individual and collective, because we are in it together. We are one in the Spirit, we're one in the Lord. We forget that sometimes, don't we? We go out shopping. You know, shopping right now is really fun. Whatever you name a thing, that's what it will be for you. Book of Genesis. Yes, shopping is interesting right now because people are really busy and hurrying and trying to get their stuff and grumbling under their breath and growling as they go. And it's fascinating. It's actually fascinating to watch, because if you're not careful, you find yourself doing the very same thing. Why that person stop in the middle of the aisle? I need to get there, right? We're all in a hurry. So I'm going to charge you with something to do for the next week. When you go shopping, when you drive on the 401 or the Gardner or through downtown, whatever, as you move through the grocery store, Walmart, wherever it is that you go, Costco, that's fun, and all the busyness and the bumping and pushing of carts, I invite you to smile. To smile at every single person, even when they don't look at you, smile at them anyway. Wish them a Merry Christmas or a Happy Holiday, whatever's politically correct, and just see what happens. And when you get to the checkout, if the person at the checkout is, having a day, smile and thank them. Take a moment to just stop before you stick your credit card or debit card or throw them some cash. And just take a moment and look at them. And don't do anything for a minute till they actually look back. And then say, thank you, have a wonderful day, and be off. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost anything to reveal your divinity. It doesn't cost anything for you to see the divine in another, even if they're acting differently. We're all divine. We are spirit. And we forget sometimes, and so we need reminders. So Verity people could be the reminders. You get to be the reminders for the next week. And I invite you to take it beyond the next week. To think about it, like when you get up in the morning, to maybe put on your bathroom mirror, I'm a reminder of love. So that when you're brushing your teeth, you go, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do today. I'm going to remind everybody that they are loved and are love. I'm going to take a moment to look in the eyes of another and be the Christ sharing that light and possibility. I am going to be the one to make a difference. And if each one of us chooses that, and every person we come in contact with, we do that, there's going to be a shift, don't you think? And the biggest shift is going to be within us for practicing it. My brother shared a story with me last week when I was visiting him in Calgary. And he talked about being at a gas station, filling his car up with gas, and he forgot to shut it off. It was, minus 40 or something. And another vehicle pulls in, and the guy gets out, and his little kid's in the back seat. And he's pumping gas into his vehicle, and he starts screaming and cursing at my brother for not shutting his car off. My brother has a little attitude. So he's looking at the man, just calmly, not saying anything, and continues pumping. Because if you talk to him like that, he doesn't actually listen to you. But while he's looking at the man, he's actually looking past him, and he's seeing the child in the car who's very afraid because his father is screaming and yelling and cursing about how the car is going to blow up because this other guy hasn't shut his car off. And deep down, my brother hadn't told me this before, but deep down, he really wanted to punch the guy, pummel him. But instead, he kept looking at this little boy and thought, someone needs to be an example of love. And so when he finished pumping his gas, he looked at the guy and he went, love you, man, got in his car and drove away. Now, I don't know what that did for the other guy. His head might have spun around, I'm not sure. But I'm sure when he had time to calm down, when he had time to think about it, maybe it made a difference for him, for my brother to have not picked a fight. For Perry, it was really huge because he keeps seeing the face of that little child. And 9 years ago, when he changed jobs, he decided that he would be bringer of love, regardless of what was going on. And so he works in the oil and gas industry and goes into the big shop and starts telling all the men, I love you, Love you, man. And it's brought him lots of joy and happiness and lots of pain and struggle as well. Because there's some people who really don't like it and think you're all sorts of things. But he's chosen to do it anyway and not buy into the judgment, because he's not judging himself as a brown noser or a suck up or whatever else he's being called. And he's recognizing the number of people who are so calm and warm and sweet and generous as a result of all the love that he shares day in and day out. And it's a fascinating story. It's a story of really living that Christ consciousness even when you don't want to, because there's a lot of days, like those first few days at work, he didn't want to be the bringer of love because he knew it was going to be really hard. And some days it was. But I charge you to recognize who you are. And when you show up living the Christ life, some people may judge you. Bless them and move on. Don't dim your light because someone else was afraid to look at it. You see, when the light enters a dark space, it removes the darkness. Fear and love cannot coexist. So when you bring the love, the fear has to go somewhere. And sometimes it gets a little rebellious and wants to hang on. So it may be a challenge to do that, to be the bringer of love. But I charge you with that anyway. Because we look at the world and we judge it. And I think we should stop. We judge it as broken and bad and flawed and awful and terrible because we're listening to the news and fear. And what we want to do is listen instead to the Christ within, to the beauty, the grace, the goodness that God is, and to begin to live from that consciousness, that we might lift the consciousness of everyone, everywhere. You see, that's our responsibility. Take Verity out of these walls. Take it out into the community, and wherever we go, be what we are taught here, what we are learning here. We are learning to live a better life. And we live a better life when we live an authentic life, when we live the Christ life. And living the Christ life doesn't mean I never make a mistake. I made a few this week, I think. Honey, did I? No? Oh, no. There's a husband who, happy wife, happy life. No. But when we live from that place, when we begin to see the people who fight us the hardest to maintain their fear, they're the ones that need us the most. And it's not that we want to change them, we just need to love them as they are, to see them for who they really are, not the projection that's being pushed at us. It's time, not because it's Christmas. This is our reminder. It's time for us to love. And it starts when we look in that mirror. And we say, I'm too old, I'm too gray, I'm too fat, I'm too something. Because you know we like doing that, don't you? Now, what's funny about that is we'll say that as we look in the mirror inside our minds. But if somebody came up to us on the street and went, wow, you're ever fat and ugly, we would probably duck them. But we're saying it in our own heads. We're saying it in our, I don't know about you, but I am. And we have to stop it. This is our reminder. We have to figure out how to love us. Because if we don't love us, if we don't live from that divine essence, if we don't have love here, then how can we give it to the world? How can we create a loving environment for our children, our family, our friends? How do we do that if we don't have it? So it starts here. Every day I have to meditate. Every day I have to go within myself and recognize Christ. I got to recognize that. And then I have to choose to reveal it. And that's a little bit harder. But the more I recognize it here, the easier it becomes. When I had a spiritual epiphany many years ago, was in a fundamentalist Christian church, so it's a little different. And I was trying to find my way, but what I had experienced was God is love. And so I'm reading the Bible, and I'm going to Bible classes, and I'm doing kinds of stuff like this, trying to figure it all out. And the people that I worked with shunned me big time. I was the born-again Christian that you needed to avoid. And it was really hard. It was really hard because these were people I'd worked with for 8, 9, 10 years. These are people that I hung out with, drank with, partied with. All of a sudden, they didn't want to talk to me anymore. And that felt difficult for a while, but then I thought, I have a choice. And although the church that I was attending at that moment didn't fit me because it didn't make sense, and the more I talked to Pastor about who was going to heaven and who was going to hell, it was fitting even less until I finally found New Thought. And New Thought made sense to me because it is the revealing of love. That's what this is. It's about taking the Bible and reading the stories and going, how does this better my life? How can I look at this story that was written thousands of years ago and go, oh, yes, that's what it is for me. It's my journey to my source. That's the story of their journey to Bethlehem. It's the journey of us to our source, each one of us. And are you ready to take that journey? Because the source is not your bank, your employer. It's none of those things. It's not your spouse. It's God. And within you, it is fully available to you 24/7. It's better than most banks. ATMs are open, but you have within you an infinite well that you can call upon any minute, any hour. You can ask for anything. Knowing that you have it, it will be revealed to you. It's time that we stand tall and grand and powerful and remarkable and wondrous because that's who we really are. And it's time to stop faking it and pretending that we're flawed and broken and we should play small and insignificant because that is not who we are. It's time. We watched last night the young adults and the children stand. They stood in their remarkable gifts. And it was a gift to every one of us who was present. And if those little children had come up and gone, it wouldn't have been as much fun for us. But they didn't. They danced and they sang and they strutted their stuff like they were powerful, little and tall. They stood in their gifts because they recognized that they could, that they were in a safe space. But what if the entire world was a safe place? What if we knew that we are safe? As we are, who we are safe. We don't have to pretend or fake it. We don't have to wear a mask for this person and a different one for this person. We don't have to be one person for our brand new first date and somebody else once we've been married 15 years. We don't have to do that. We could just be us. We could get skinny and get fat and get tall and, well, that probably won't work. Tall and short, but that might be difficult. And whatever happens, whatever goes on, we can choose to come from love, recognizing I'm on a journey. And on that journey, I sometimes question. And I think we should question. I think we should question, here's what today looks like. Is this what I really desire? Is this what I really seek? And if it isn't, don't blame anybody. Just go within. The power of evolution, the power of creation, the power of imagination, all of it is within you. The wisdom that you have, that you've always had, is where it's always been, which is within you. The love that you are has never been anywhere that you're not. It's within you. And it is calling you to be more, to do more, to celebrate and to rejoice in all that you are. It's time, don't you think? It's time to stand in your magnificence. We are on a journey. And it's up to us if we're going to get there. Because there is not a place. It's an awareness, a consciousness that has always been. So that journey that I'm doing out here is not really a total waste of energy, because it's going to bring me round back to where I need to be, probably, if I'm smart, if I pay attention. Because whatever I'm doing out there, it's meaningless. But it might remind me, or trick me, or drop me to my knees so that I can remember that where I need to go is right here. I need to go within, back to my source. I need to go into the Christ consciousness to remind myself that I am enough, just like you, that I'm special, just like you, that I'm here for a reason, just like you, and that when I was born into this life, I was equipped with remarkable gifts and talents, just like you. And each one of us is the only one of us who can do what it is for us to do. And we just need to discover that. And our difficulty in discovering who we really are sometimes comes from the stories we've been told and our belief in them. And so we must forget certain things. We need to forget the stories we were told that suggested we were smaller, broken, flawed, and unimportant. And remember instead that we're a gift and a blessing, created in the image and of the likeness of God. Perfect, whole, and complete now and forever. So what is it that you believe about you? What did you say to yourself this morning when you were getting dressed? When you woke up with your hair doing its thing and looked in the mirror, maybe with some makeup that didn't get washed off last night, or what was the message you gave to yourself? And are you ready to change it? You see, we're all on a journey to the birth of the Christ. It's not for a select few. It's about raising our consciousness, remembering who we are, and allowing ourselves to live from that place. Remember that song we sang as little kids? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. We take that bushel and we put it over our heads. Even though we sang and said, don't hide it under a bushel, we're hiding it under a bushel. Get rid of that thing. Toss it. Let your light shine. You are here for a reason, for a purpose. There is no accident, mistake. There is only goodness, and you are that, regardless of how bad you think you've been. We've all been bad. Some more than others. But what is bad? That is my definition of my behavior based on my upbringing. What I deem bad, Madonna thinks is awesome. Right? It's like, you know, where does our perception come from? It comes from the stories we were told, the way we were raised, the things our parents said yes or no to. Those are the things that we decide to label. And in the Bible, it says, whatever you name a thing, that's what it'll be for you. So how about we remove some labels and begin to love instead? Stand in our authenticity. Stand in your authenticity. Stand for who you are. Stand for your brilliance, your creativity. You know what it is, and don't tell me you don't, because I know you do. Whatever you name a thing, that's what it is for you, and we tell ourselves, I don't know, I can't, I'll try. And all of those messages are suggesting to us that somehow we haven't a clue what's going on, but the truth is we do. And there's some fear, some story, some idea that's blocking and stopping it, and it's time to give that up. I invite you to go into prayer and meditation and kickstart your life. I invite you to go into prayer and meditation and allow the Christ to reveal through you who you really are and let it out. Yes, some people aren't going to like it. Oh, well, they'll get over it, or not. But you will feel great. Be you. Be who God created you to be. Take that little light of yours. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. God bless.
I can hear the people say, what about one heart? Oh, now let's get together and feel alright. Let me hear you say, what about one heart? Oh, now give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright. I'm saying, let's get together and feel alright. Oh, let them all pass all their dirty remarks. There is one question that I'd really love to ask. Now, is there a place for that hopeless sinner who has hurt all mankind just to save his own belief? Verity, let me hear you say, one now, what about one heart? Oh, now let's get together and feel alright. I can hear the people say, what about one heart? Oh, now give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright. I'm saying, let's get together and feel alright. Whoa. Let them all pass all their dirty remarks. There is one question that I'd really love to ask. Now, is there a place for that hopeless sinner who has hurt all mankind just to save his own belief? Won't you join us and say, what about one heart?